Hey, Phil here. Thanks for watching. On today's episode of Frets, I'm going to share my latest Craigslist find. This guitar is made by Ibanez. It is a Talman. This is a thin-bodied acoustic-electric guitar. Now, a while back, I had a guitar made by Squier that was a thin-bodied acoustic-electric, and it was called a Stratacoustic. This is similar to the Stratacoustic in that it's a thin-bodied acoustic-electric guitar, but it's different in a couple important ways. Number one, the body is made of wood. On the Stratacoustic, the body, the back of it, the soundboard was wood, but the back of it was fiberglass. Another important distinction is that this has a set neck, whereas the Stratacoustic had a bolt-on neck. Now, both designs have their advantages and disadvantages, so I'm not going to go into what makes one better than the other, because it really comes down to a matter of preference. But anyway, I got this guitar for a really good deal. A young man who's going into the Marine Corps sold it to me for a really nice price. He sold it to me for $40, and I'm really pleased with it. It seems to be a fully functioning guitar. It plays, holds its tune, but it does have some issues. Let's take a look. First issue, the battery compartment. There's no battery compartment. There's just a hole. And if you look at the other side, where the jack goes in, there's another hole. We've got a problem. We've got to get this fixed. Now, I could play this guitar as it is and be just fine with it. It would make a great guitar, a second guitar, something to take out camping. It would be something, well, I could take it out, and if it gets scratched up, no big deal, because it is a little bit scratched up, but I kind of like getting them like that. I like being able to do the big reveal to find out what's underneath. Anyway, my first order of business is to find out what I have to deal with. And now listen, there's some stuff hanging around loose in there, and I'll let you in on a little secret. I already checked it out. There is, the jack is still there, but we're missing the nut for it. But the battery compartment is completely gone. But not to worry, because StewMac has battery compartments. Check this out. It's 3 pieces. This is perfect for hollow body guitars and acoustic guitars. This piece goes underneath, and this piece comes out from the outside, and in between these two ledges here, it kind of sandwiches in, and it holds together with these screws in place, and that's the overall frame. And then it has this nice little thing. This actually holds the battery, and it's got a little clip here to hold it in place. It's a nice little piece of equipment, and I even have a lot of lead for soldering. But I'm going to pause the video right now. Well, no, I'm not. I just made a liar of myself. What I'm going to do is take a look here. I'd like to get this out. Now, there are no screws here. Now, I can look at it from under here. Yeah, you can't see from there, but that's okay. But it looks like there's some screws from the other side, but it doesn't really look like something that holds it in place, rather something that holds it together. Anyway, after a little bit of investigating, I've found that I can peel this back. This is a sticker, and if you get that out of the way, there are some screws under there. So I'm going to peel the sticker the rest of the way off. I'm going to make sure to be very careful with it. I don't want to damage it because I want to reuse it when I'm done. It may take a little bit of glue, may not. We'll find out. But I'm going to pause the video, and while it's paused, I'm going to remove this, and we're going to take a look at what we have. Hey, we're back. It didn't take as long as I thought for one part, but another part took a little longer. I was able to just peel up enough of this sticker to get to the screws, so I didn't really have to remove the whole thing. Just 4 screws, and this came out. What's neat about this design is that it plugs in, so you've got the round hole. See that? That's for where the pickup, that goes to the undersaddle pickup, and it just plugs in, and that's really nice because it makes it so easy to work on. And the other part is the wiring. Now you've got one part that goes to the jack, and you've got this other part for the battery. Now here's the battery connector for the 9-volt battery, but take a look at this. The wires are broken, but that's okay because, as I showed you before, this particular battery holder already has the wires. So here's my plan. I'm going to take and I'm going to find a nut that's going to fit this jack and a washer, and I'm going to get out my handy dandy soldering gun, and I'm going to solder these red and black wires to these red and black wires. I'm going to eliminate This, I'm not going to need it because inside this battery compartment, you can see are the contacts for the 9-volt battery. So we're going to be set. And then all I have to do is just physically put the whole thing back together. Now, what I ran into, it was an interesting little design. This little thingamabobber here, and it looks like some 3M kind of foam tape, was stuck to the inside of the guitar, and it had a little twisty thing, and it just kind of holds all the wires together out of the way so you don't see them through the sound hole. I've got another acoustic electric guitar, and you can see one of the wires, and it's not a big deal, but it's something that you notice, and really I don't like that there's anything to notice on that other than the beauty of the guitar itself. So this is a little thing that I may want to improvise something to use on my Alvarez. So, a very important skill, I think, if you're going to work on guitars, you need to know how to solder. If you don't know how to solder, find somebody who knows how to solder and have them show you. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube and things like that to help you with your soldering techniques. And just like anything else, it's a skill. Practice, practice, practice. I'm not the best at soldering. I can get the job done, and when I'm done, it works. It's not always pretty, but that's the nice thing about soldering. It's hidden. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pause this. I'm going to do some soldering, and we're going to put this back together and see what we've got. Now, but there is one more problem that I'm going to have to deal with. This is the hole for the battery compartment, not this one. This is the hole for the controls. Here's the hole for the battery compartment. It needs to be big enough for this to fit into it. It currently is not. It came with a template. I can do some measuring, and when we get to that point, I'm going to show you how I would approach it, but it involves just a little bit of tape and some patience. Okay, so in fact, I should probably do that first. I'm going to pause, and I'll be right back with my setup. And I'm back. Now, check this out. I used blue painter's tape. And I've used the painter's tape to physically mark out the hole that I need to have in order to fit in my battery bracket. Now, what's really nice about this is that there were 2 holes here, and I can set it up in such a way that those holes disappear. So it's going to be nice and clean, no extraneous holes. So now all I have to do is actually do the filing. But anytime you're working on a guitar or you're taking something off, particularly on something like a Telecaster, I always put this kind of tape down when I remove the control plate because it's really, really super duper easy to scratch the finish on your guitar. So anytime you're doing anything that requires some sort of delicacy, use a little bit of blue painter's tape. It's more expensive than the yellow stuff. But what's nice about it is it's not as sticky as the yellow masking tape, and it pulls away more cleanly. It doesn't leave the residue. Now I'm going to get out my files, and I'm going to file away, and I'm going to make this smaller hole the size of the hole shown by the blue tape. Okay, it took some doing, but it's done. I used a couple files. I used this file to take out the bulk. I used this file to get in the corners where this one wouldn't reach, and if I wanted a smooth surface, I'd use one of these little files. Not really made for wood, but it did get the job done, and here is the result. I have the hole that is the right size to accept the battery holder. Now, how this is going to go in, I have to decide. Do I want it to open this way towards the front or towards the back? I think I'd like it towards the front. And so there's a little dent right there for your finger, so you're going to put that to whichever side you want it to open. And then I'm going to put this side in from underneath, and the screws are going to hold it together, sandwich the thing in place, and then we're going to be ready to tackle the wiring. Now, it just occurred to me that I have to get these wires to go through this part and then go over to this. So I'm going to do the wiring before I mount it, and as I'm looking through here, it looks like all of my wiring will fit through this little cage. there's a nice big hole here just for that reason. So it's not really going to cause me any problems to do the wiring outside of the guitar. With some guitars, you just have to do the wiring while it's in. It's the nature of the beast. I mean, depending on what kind of guitar you have, you could take a Strat out, take the pick guard out, do all the wiring right there on your workbench, and all you have to do is solder it to the jack and to the claw in the back. But this one, it looks like it's another one I can mostly do on the bench. Anyway, it's time for me to do my soldering, and then I'll show it to you once we have it back together. Okay, I've got it back together, and overall it went pretty smoothly. I ran into a little bit of trouble because of the close quarters when dealing with a thin-bodied guitar like this, as far as getting your hand in through the hole to reach up to hold things in place, to put in the battery cover and the output jack. But I gotta tell you, it works. It works just fine. I'm playing it right now through my Fender Acoustic Junior, and I've got a little bit of chorus on it, and it just sounds really nice plugged in. Thin-bodied acoustics, they sound a little bit on the thin side as far as when they're unplugged, but they just really sound good plugged in. So, the guitar's all together, everything's fully functional. Now all it needs is a good cleaning up and a good setting up, but that is an episode for a different day. Hey, thanks for joining me on Frets with Phil. Have a great day.